Hi, I'm Dr. Michael Uphues. Today I'm going to talk to you about one of my favorite topics, medical cannabis, and about the most serious problem responsible for accidental deaths in this country, and that is opiate overdose, both prescription and street drugs such as heroin. The first fact that needs to be understood is that not a single person has ever died from a cannabis overdose in the entire history of mankind. Let us contrast this to the staggering statistic that in 2014 alone, there were 47,055 deaths from drug overdose. That is the equivalent of about 125 Americans every day. Of those 47,055 people who died, about 61%, or 28,704, were from opiate overdoses. However, in the states where medical cannabis is legal for use in chronic pain, both prescription opiate and heroin use has dropped 25 to 33%. In my own clinical practice, I have noticed the same trend. Patients who begin properly using medical cannabis for pain either decrease or entirely stop using their opiates. Why is this? 1, if an opiate is combined with cannabis, less opiate is required to achieve the desired analgesic effect. 2, cannabis itself acts as an analgesic and works in the brain to decrease people's psychological and emotional response to pain. In other words, it favorably changes people's response to pain. It is clear to me that large studies need to be conducted to implement opioid addiction treatment with the use of medical cannabis. Since the 1990s, there has been a push to prescribe opiate analgesics for pain. Pharmaceutical companies woo doctors to prescribe them and also tended to minimize the highly addictive nature of the opioid analgesics. People are turning to heroin because it is cheaper and more readily available. But as I said, even heroin overdose deaths have decreased in the states that have medical cannabis laws. Cannabinoids increase dopamine concentrations in the nucleus accumbens like heroin and other opioids. This is one of the pleasure centers of the brain. Big Pharma maintains quiet ties to the cannabis prohibition lobby by offering up researchers who produce bogus reports on the dangers of cannabis. Pharmaceutical companies, along with alcohol and beer companies, private prison corporations, and police unions spend millions of dollars a year battling state initiatives to legalize medical cannabis. In 2012, 259 million prescriptions were written for opioids, which is the equivalent to give every American adult their own bottle of painkillers. 4 out of 5 new heroin users start out by misusing prescription opioids. So what can be done about this? First of all, the public needs to be educated about the seriousness and pervasiveness of this problem. Number 2, people who are addicted must seek help from medical professionals, mental health professionals, and support groups. And number 3, there is also medical therapy available. The 3 most commonly prescribed drugs for opiate addiction are methadone, naltrexone, and Suboxone. The most successful seems to be the Suboxone. Sobriety rates and retention in treatment have been as high as 40 to 60% in some studies. Suboxone's abuse potential is lower than methadone because it does not produce euphoria, whereas methadone can, especially at high doses. Suboxone was FDA approved for the treatment of opioid addiction in 2002 in this country. Its advantages over methadone and naltrexone are the following. Number 1, it suppresses withdrawal symptoms and cravings. Number 2, it does not cause euphoria. And number 3, it blocks the effects of opioids for over 24 hours. Taking medication for opioid addiction is not the same thing as substituting one addiction for another. This is why studies need to be conducted about the use of medical cannabis as a viable treatment option for the opioid addicted person. I offer medication-assisted treatment in my own private practice. So if you or one of your loved ones suffers from opiate addiction, please do not hesitate to call me, 239-315-0489 or 406-696-0409. I am licensed to treat patients in Florida, Illinois, Montana, and Nevada. Please contact me if you or one of your loved ones suffers from opiate addiction. That phone call could literally save your lives. I'm Dr. Michael Uphues, and I wish you the best of health.